Aloha, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Grow to Great podcast. So grateful to have you here and really looking forward to sharing some cool insights with you today. My name's Adam. If you haven't seen me before, I just wanted to thank you for jumping in here. Definitely appreciate the opportunity to share what's become a passion for me, which is helping other home service business owners like myself learn how to grow and scale and keep more of their hard-earned money. Appreciate you joining and hopefully provide some good insights for you here today. Today, in this episode, I'm going to focus on smart freelancing. I think this is a good thing to cover. I think a lot of us, if you haven't already, are already using freelancers, and it's definitely a viable thing. There's a lot of very talented people out there who can help you do some of the tasks. I would advise that you make sure that they all fit together. If you're using freelancers, that they're working together to not just do projects, but also to make them fit within the broader guise of a bit broader marketing strategy. But I think just knowing some of the things that I've learned over the years, it's a very viable way to get cost-effective marketing services. I've got some good ones that I'm happy to share with you as well. I'll provide some opportunity to do that later in this episode. But maybe you've tried this and maybe you've had bad experiences. I'm sure you could probably chime in and share a few of your own nightmare stories of freelancers who drive you crazy and all that kind of stuff. But basically here to point out specific ways that you, as a home service business owner, don't have to become a marketing expert. You can leverage, know exactly what you need, know how to find the person to do it, know how to get exactly what you need out of them. Don't waste time and money and heartache going through a bunch of different freelancers who just aren't really what you need. It winds up being distracting and time consuming and expensive, even if they are a little cheaper to work with. Let's just dive in without further ado here. In this episode, I'm going to just cover, I was like laying out what it is you're going to learn. Today, we'll talk about where to find the best freelancers. There's a couple obvious choices there, but I can walk you through some of what to look for and where to look for them. I think I'll outline 6 very common mistakes when you're hiring and looking for freelancers. Knowing those in advance when you go out and just run that through your mind gives you a much better chance for success if you know what you're looking for and avoid those mistakes that wind up keeping you spinning your wheels in the mud. That's no fun. A couple tips on how to spot or differentiate high quality talent from people who maybe look like they're great on freelance profiles but aren't really that good. So there's a bunch of little things I've learned through my own mistakes that I want to share with you. And then some red flags. Obviously, there's some real clear red flags in my experience. If you are trying to hire a freelancer and they do one of these things, it's more than likely it's not going to end up too fun for you. I'll outline those for you. I'll talk about some of the most profitable. I think, again, the whole purpose of this about home service ignition and growing your business and learning how to get these marketing tasks done is really about how are we generating profit? What's the point of all this work and this investment on your part? We want to make sure that you're clear about what levers you can pull to make sure that you're pushing more profit and making all of your day-to-day operations and your marketing efforts more efficient overall. So that's another thing we'll touch on. I'll talk about how to just manage the gigs, like how to get through a gig to ensure it goes smoothly and to make sure the communication's good and all the things that can help facilitate a successful outcome. And the last thing I'll do is just it's easy to just do one gig, but how does that fit into a longer term vision for what you need for marketing that results in more growth, less headache, less stress, and more leads and jobs at the end of the day. There's a good way to stay on top of those freelance relationships and make sure that you continue to leverage them and get things that work for you in your business, okay? Let's just talk about common mistakes right out of the gates. Again, these are based on personal experience, but you do what you want with them. And like I said, you probably have some of your own here. If you've heard these before, bear with me. But again, if you're new to the game and you're just exploring, this is also a good thing for you to know in advance. I think I've done 300 plus gigs on my Fiverr account alone over the years. So needless to say, I got a lot of experience doing this. Hopefully some of that can be conveyed here to you. Number one, you definitely get what you pay for. I'm not saying you can't get a cheap resource to do really good work. It does happen. I've had it happen. I've got 1 or 2 people right now doing really good work for me at a very cost-effective, fair rate, which is the whole point of doing freelancing. But for the most part, as long as you're not getting fleeced or getting locked into really large gigs, and I'll talk about how to deal with that as well, usually the price is pretty commensurate with the type of service you're going to get and what the outcome is going to be at the end of that gig. So just bear that in mind, that cheap is good, but quality is at the end of the day. You want fair value for your money. That's what you want to do for sure. Defining tasks clearly. This is a big one, especially with a lot of the language issues and things like that, is just coming up with ways to make sure that it's very clear what it is, what you need, why you're doing it. A lot of developer world, they call those requirements. So what are some of the things you can do to make sure your tasks are really clearly defined and you can get closer, get to that positive outcome much faster than you would if you just were giving them information a little bit at a time or not really making sure that they're clear before they start work? I can't tell you how many times I've thought I gave perfectly clear direction but didn't really define specifically I need A, B, C, and D, and making sure that they understand very clearly that's what we're trying to accomplish here. So that's important. Checkpoints and deadlines. You'll see a lot of people or freelancers that kind of will disappear and then just deliver you an end product and ask you to approve the gig, and hopefully they can walk away and not have to deal with you anymore. But if you just can't encourage enough, it's how important it is, or emphasize enough how important it is to have really clear checkpoints. Just say, I'd like to check in a week and see where you're at. Or let's say, for example, you're doing a suite of banner ads for social media. Why don't you just create one ad or one design and make sure that graphic is perfect, rather than having them deliver you, spending all that time and delivering you 6 ads that are completely off the mark, and then you have to start all over again. So those checkpoints and doing this stuff incrementally is a thing that's worked for me and something that I think you should take advantage of. I'll talk a little bit later about this idea of sprints. Again, that's common parlance in developer land, which is let's sprint, let's get this section of tasks and these things completed before moving on to the others. So keeping it really simple and making the time frame, the amount of work, and the clarity around that work really clear. A real effective way to do that is to use what I call sprints, or what developers would call sprints as well. So I'll go into that a little deeper here in a minute. At the same time, even though I'm advocating you get very clear and very specific about the tasks, I think you also you're hiring this person because they're an expert at what they do. Hopefully, if you've chosen the right person, they either have familiarity with your service, with home service business and our space. But at the end of the day, you really want to delegate to them. So in my experience, the best thing to do is to give clear direction, set those checkpoints, and make sure you're checking in, but really delegate the work. That you're hiring them for their expertise. Let them do the work and then check in with them, and don't feel like you need to be there every step of the way, and because that'll really make them crazy. And frankly, you could wind up losing a freelancer who is very capable of doing what you need and is the right find, which is in and of itself half the battle. But you find the right person, but you alienate them because you're making lots of small edits and changes and complaining and reworks and stuff like that. You need to be respectful of their time just the same way they need to be respectful of yours. So just like I said, get a clear process in place, set clear deadlines, and then just let them do their thing. I think as long as it's not some opus or some massive delivery at the end, you'll find that delegating can clear them up to really focus on what they need to do and get the work done correctly. Lastly, obviously, I've got here just holding on to the good ones. I can't tell you enough. If you got a good one, stay in touch. Don't let them go. Like I said, I've got a whole list of people I've had to do everything from spreadsheets to design to logo work, all kinds of different things like that. Happy to share those with you if I can. I've got some great insights that have worked well for my cleaning business here in Hawaii. But once you find the good ones, don't let them go. That's all I can share with you. And the whole purpose, again, what we're saying here is that if you can dial in and really learn how to leverage freelancers, you can do it and avoid a lot of the expense associated with agencies. And more importantly, start producing work that can really help you scale your business quickly, where you're not just like doing a gig, pushing it out, and then randomly pumping it into your business. This is a real way to leverage the many experts that you're going to need and the technical skills that you need to grow your business, everything from technology to copy to design to who knows what. There's 100 different things that you need help with from a technical standpoint. At the end of the day, if you really do want to grow and scale your business up to the next level, this is just a no-brainer way to do it, which is get the right resources in, have them do the work you need to get done. Okay, let's go ahead and just dive real quickly into an intro. If you've seen one of my other podcasts, forgive me if this is a little repetitive, but basically, as I mentioned, I own a home service business here in Hawaii. Bought it several years ago, been through a lot of ups and downs. Really, through my pain and through my experience, I've been doing marketing for 20 plus years, and implemented a lot of things that I know that I've used during that time to actually make work for my business and scale my business. Like I said, I think I've quadrupled my revenue in a relatively short period of time. Background wise, like I said, I've got marketing experience in solar and roofing and cleaning businesses and other home service businesses, in addition to digital marketing and things like that. US Navy veteran, MBA. So I've been around the block a little bit, and really feel like I was only able to learn the home service business when I bought it and apply a lot of the marketing stuff that I knew through a lot of failure, through a lot of mistakes, but also implementing some of the things that I've learned over the years that work really well to build a more comprehensive strategy to actually slowly and steadily grow my business and make sure that my marketing is dialed in a real manageable and controllable way, which is really what I want to share with you here too. Now, I basically, part of the reason I'm on this podcast is I'm really out to help other people do the same thing. After being what I've been through as a home service business owner and going through the ups and downs, I understand a lot of the pain points. And I just felt like I had a lot to share with people like us who can take advantage of that and apply some of not just the ideas or the guidance or tactics specifically, but to actually take some of my systems. If I've got automations and technology and different things that work for me, I just really would love to share those with as many people as possible. I just know what it's like to be a home service business owner. And I think hardworking people with integrity who deserve all the support we can get. And if I can do that in any way, whether it's through advice or specific tactics like I'm going to go through here about freelancing, or like I said, specifically bolt on my systems where you can just take them and plug them onto your business and just run with them, that's definitely something I want to make available here. That's enough about me. So let's talk real quick about where to look. The two big 800-pound gorillas are really Fiverr and Upwork. I've worked on 99 Designs, I've worked on, you name it, I've worked on a lot of different platforms, but these are really the two. You can pretty much find anything you need on these two platforms, but just to delineate the different types of what you should be looking for in accordance with price and the types of consultants you're likely to find on each. I found that for quick, cheap, task-based gigs, so stuff like design, branding, social and paid media, local services, a little bit of technology here and there, but those types of like quick hit, flyer design, those are all very viable, cool things, business cards. You could do a lot of that stuff, I think, as like a smaller gig. Those aren't necessarily like systemic types of projects per se, like systems, and really just more deliverables. So it's a little easier to work with those if you need financial modeling, it's a specific task or deliverable. They can churn those out, produce them to you, you move on. Maybe you need them again in the future, maybe you don't, but for the most part, that's what I've found Fiverr to be really ideal for. Pricing is, of course, really good. If you, like I said, I'll show you how to find the right guys, of course, or girls. And you can, that's probably where a good place to start in terms of what you're looking for when you're looking for those more task-based gigs that I mentioned. Upwork's also another, obviously, very viable channel for you. You've probably seen, I do think they're a little bit higher quality level of financiers there because you can really see like their career earnings. You're going to see stuff for CRM, automation, reporting, dashboards, email, SMS marketing. So more like long-term support relationships I found to be really good with hourly resources on Upwork. The other thing that's great about that, and the reason it makes sense to do those longer gigs or relationships, is that it is billed hourly. You've got time tracking, and it's a little bit of a less of a black box where Fiverr's kind of, I just need this one thing. It's more of a gig, like it's called, whereas Upwork, you can see what they're getting paid by hour. You can see their screen while they're working. They'll time track down to, I think it's by the minute. I don't know if it's a minute, but I'd see I have a gig we're going right now that's 3 hours and 10 minutes in, and I said, wow, that's pretty sweet, just to be able to see you getting exactly what you're paying for some of those things that require ongoing support and visibility. So that's pretty good. Again, pro tip here, if you need referrals of any kind or you need a specific task or gig, I've got some killer freelancers. Like I said, I got a long list of them. I've been through a lot of bad ones, but I've got a couple really good ones. So if there were specific recommendations I can make, be sure to just hit me up or just reach out to me. I'm happy to share those and just save you all the headache of having to find all these and go through some of the bad ones to find the good ones. So that's available to you as well. What to look for? So let's just go through real quickly. What are some of the indicators? What are some of, I wouldn't say red flags, but what are you looking for? And obviously, there's going to be reviews. There's going to be the number of gigs that they have. And that's a good way to start. You're obviously working with someone who has 500 completed jobs on Fiverr is more than likely going to be better than someone who has 2. But honestly, I've seen where reviews can be shady. I've seen redundant reviews. There's probably a lot of tricks and little ways that these people are pretty crafty. They're very incentivized to making good money to get clients. I've seen all that type of stuff. But common sense, reviews and number of gigs is definitely a good indicator, although I don't think it's the only indicator because sometimes, frankly, what you're seeing may not be what you're actually getting. So that's an important starter, a no-brainer starter. Portfolio and work samples, of course, you'll see this, but I've encountered several freelancers that you have to extract more work samples, because let's say they have a really nice portfolio of designs, but have they specifically worked with home service businesses? Do they have ads they can show you? Do they have dashboards that they've built that they can show you that they've already specifically done that? As part of your kind of hiring process, I'll talk about that a little bit more too, but really just dig in and say, where's your portfolio? Do you have other work samples? They may not even have them all on the one gig. They may have multiple gigs, for example. I've seen a lot of providers that have 5 or 6 different gigs. So maybe they have something that's relevant or pertinent to what you need that they can share with you and reaffirm and give you the confidence to move forward with them. So that's a pretty good one too. Niche experts, can't emphasize this enough. It's one thing to say, hey, I do business cards. It's another thing to say, hey, I do business cards or flyers for home service businesses, carpet business, let's say. That is a no-brainer because they're just going to already be familiar with it. You're not teaching them just from the ground up. So having some niche experience, if you have to hire somebody who doesn't have niche experience, that's okay. If they've got to crush all the other categories, of course. But if you can get someone who has all the good signs to them and they have your niche covered, then that's just going to probably set you up for success even more than if it were just somebody who's just a really qualified provider for sure. Time zone's a big one. More than likely, the cost-effective ones are going to be offshore, if not way offshore. I'm in Hawaii, as I mentioned, so you could be 12 hours apart. And so just making sure it's someone that you can communicate with clearly and know when they're going to be there. Nothing worse than finding a great person, feeling confident about them, even when they're giving you good work. But if you can't communicate with them and get good responses back from them at a reasonable hour, it's obviously that's just a common sense thing that just be wary. It doesn't mean you shouldn't hire providers that are in those other countries. They're going to be more cost effective and good, but just be aware of the time zone. I know it's especially painful for me being here in Hawaii and being in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So that's an important one. I mentioned time zone and response and communication. Just response times are pretty key. So if it's taking a day or they don't get back to you until midnight of the next day and you're waiting to hear back on something that they need and it's going to start pushing out the duration of that project, you'll see the ones that respond quickly. It doesn't mean they have to be there waiting for your message, but if you can get someone who is responding during your working hours, getting back to you pretty quickly, it's going to facilitate a much smoother transition, not just for this one gig, but on an ongoing basis if you want to form relationships with those providers for the long term, which is always a good thing. This is another big one, is just, are they asking questions? Anybody could come out and say, oh, I'm so great, and oh yeah, I can do this, and I'm going to kill it for you, or whatever they want to say to you. But the good ones that I've found are really asking you questions. Hey, what type of promotion would you like to have on that banner? How long are you planning on, what channels are you planning on running that promotion on? Or there's 100 different questions. Even if they ask you 2 or 3 clarifying questions, it can really make a big difference in terms of you knowing that they're clear about what it is that you need. And then similarly, the answers that they give back. If you ask a specific question, are they answering your question? If they just answer you without responding to what it is that you said, then it's already an indicator of bad communication and potential breaks down the road. So what I would just, again, when you're looking for someone, just be wary and conscious of the questions they ask. Are they pertinent to what you need? And then the answers that they're giving when you ask them questions, they're very specific. You're going to see a big difference in the ones who show that they're communicating effectively before you ever hire them. So that's another one. Honesty is another really big one. What I mean by that is just, you don't know who this person is, where they are, if they are who they are in their picture, what language they really speak. With AI, you could have entire conversations going on where they're replying to all your messages via AI. And I honestly don't really have a problem with that. I've gotten back messages in some of my threads where it shows the summary of the response within the chat that they sent. So I just laugh and say, hey, isn't AI great? As long as they're answering you with the answers and then backing that up with action, and they're answering that with good answers, I don't care how much they use AI, and frankly, I don't think you should either. But you just want to know that people are honest. It's a common sense thought, but are you who you say you are? Are you willing to hop on a video call with me? That's a good way to check and see if that's something you want to do. But just working with honest people in business, it goes without saying that's something you want to do, even when it comes to people who are doing technical skills in faraway places. It's definitely something you want to be aware of. Okay, just be conscious that I'd rather have someone tell me that I'm not some blonde girl in Great Britain and just tell me that, and then just do good work. So really, at the end of the day, it's all about communication and good outcomes for sure. Like I said, just leave that standing offer. If you want to run candidates by me, just hit me up anywhere, social, shoot me a note, and I'm happy to either run your candidates that you're thinking about working with. Happy to give my insights of whatever they're worth. And then, like I said, if I've got candidates already that can help you do that, I'll just bounce them over to you, and you can hit the ground running knowing that they've already been vetted and I've already paid them to do work that I think is really good and work for me and my business. So that's another little offer I'd love to put out there for you. All right, let's talk about red flags for a second. I've seen this a lot of times where there's an urgency there where, don't get me wrong, fast is good, responsiveness is good. But if that person is jumping, should I start the offer? Should I create the custom offer? Let's get started. Yes, sir, I can do a great job for you. Let's get started. And you haven't taken the time to first check out multiple clients and have multiple conversations. I just think that if they're already not asking all the things I said on the prior slide, which is not asking questions, and they're just jumping right into, let's get going. Because look, there's an urgency to what you want to do. You want to get it done. You want to pay a fair or cheap price for that project. But if they're pushing you into doing something before you have all the information, it's just probably a red flag. And I would slow down and pump the brakes on that one, and then look at the other ones and see if you can get some of those better indicators out of other people. Not saying that asking for the work is bad. Just make sure they're not rushing you into a decision and not clear about what it is you want before you decide to hire them. Redundant portfolios is another one I've seen, especially with AI, as I've mentioned, I've seen exact same AI profiles, same copy and everything on multiple profiles, especially on Fiverr. Upwork's a little trickier to do that. But just look, if you can drill down into their profile and then see what their gigs are, and they should have multiple gigs usually under them, or they'll have the same copy within the gig itself, but with different image, different header, different contact. There are people who have the same gig with the same AI-driven content within the gig on 5 different profiles. So take a minute to do that. That's something that's always made a lot of sense for me. Paying off platform, I'll be candid in saying that I think that it sucks that Fiverr and Upwork take a good portion of the money that they make, especially when they're making relatively little money. I didn't say this here, but if you can work out a relationship on an ongoing basis where you're not working directly with those platforms, go ahead and do that. If you've got a long-term relationship, putting more money in their pocket is obviously a good thing. But if they're immediately rushing, hey, do you want to pay me on Payoneer, or hit me up on this and I'll send me PayPal or some crap, it's not worth it, because it speaks to that honesty piece that I was mentioning early. It's not wrong for them to want to keep more of the money that they earn, but I think as you're starting, especially in new gigs, just make sure that you're working within the platform, you're within the terms of service for the platform, and they're more importantly not rushing to get you off the platform, which to me is a little bit weird. You just have to find a good balance and where you stand on that. Jack of all trades. This kind of goes back to what I said earlier, which is really, do they do everything? Are they a designer, or are they a CRM auto? Are they a Go High Level expert, or are they a Zapier expert? Are they saying that they do Looker Studio dashboards, but they don't know how to do agency analytics, and now they're telling you they know how to? So there's a billion examples I could give you on that. But bottom line is, you want a specialist to do, ideally. Doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who do offer lots of good services. I've had run into that many times. But find someone who's an expert in what it is that you need, and stay away from people who are like a one-size-fits-all, jack of all trades. Oh yes, I can do that. That's usually means that they're not necessarily experts in the one area that you need the support and the work to be done. Check-ins, this goes hand in hand with the deadlines that I said earlier about what you're asking for. If they go dark on you and you aren't getting updates and they're not responsive, or they're telling you I'll have it next week or something, they should be able to pop in there and just give you a quick, hey, I'm all good. I'm at this stage of the process. I got the first 2 ads done, or this part is built, or whatever. If they can just tell you, they don't even need to show you per se. It's design, I would argue they should show you. As long as they're willing to update you and let you know that the project's moving smoothly and according to timeline, and that they got it under control, they don't have questions. There's nothing worse than having a freelancer come back to you 2 days before the project's due and start asking you questions that they could have answered couple days ago. So when you're qualifying them, go ahead and have them make sure they are clear that I just want to check in. I don't want to micromanage you, but I want to check in and see if we can get a check-in once in a while, just to make sure you're on the right track. So that's a big one. And more importantly, they got to be willing to do it. It's part of that good communication I already talked about. And then the other one I mentioned before also is a video call. Nowadays, it's so easy. A lot of them are embedded directly within the platforms. You can start a Zoom call directly in Upwork. You can start a Zoom call directly in Fiverr. There's pretty much no reason. It's a great way to validate that the person is who they say they are. You can check their accent and their English skills and make sure that they answer in person the same way they're answering, potentially using AI and chat. I just think that these days that there's enough providers out there. If you get one who's just reluctant and refuses to get on a video call, you should probably just keep shopping and look around for somebody else, that's for sure. And like I said here, overall, just take your time to hire the right person. I know you want to get the work done and you want a right price. There could be a shiny new candidate that you think is going to kill it for you, but look through 4 or 5 people, identify 2 or 3 you really want to work with. You're going to have to, at the end of the day, go with your gut, but just take your time. That's the only thing I could suggest about. Don't just rush to hire, give it to somebody. Any wasted money, you're asking for refunds, they're pissed. It's just not worth it. Go ahead and see if you can really use all the steps I just talked about to pick the right person out of the gates, but take the time to do it. Here's some things I just want to recommend in terms of like order of priority for things you should be doing. If you're doing marketing yourself and you want to do it in-house and you want to leverage freelancers, you're going to keep your costs a lot lower, that's for sure. But like I said earlier, if you're just doing freelancing work as gigs and that work isn't tied together as part of a broader strategy, especially because you don't have time to be your own marketing expert per se, what I would suggest is making sure that you have all of these things set up in advance in order, so that when you progress to the next stage of building out your marketing environment, that you have some of the things you need to be able to do the ongoing gigs that you need as separate projects on their own. One of the things I definitely would advise, and this is a real easy and affordable thing to do, is just having a brand or identity. I don't know if you've ever seen brand guides for corporations that could be dozens or hundreds of pages of colors and logos and taglines and personas and all this other crap. You don't need that as a small home business owner, but you really do. If you want to communicate clearly with people who live a million miles away and don't know your business, you really should be able to show them visually. What does your business look like? What does it feel like? What colors does it have? What do your trucks look like? What do your employees wear? And then part of that really is this identity. Again, you don't need to have a PhD in marketing to understand how to do personas or any of this other stuff, but what's your voice? How do you identify? What's the way you want to be seen by customers? Are you super professional, button up with clean polo shirts and clipboards? Or are you just more down to earth? And are you a little bit more community focused, local service focused? There's a lot of different things there to really tell these providers, even if they're not just working on design, but what is the personality of your company? And I find that if you have a really good logo with really good colors with some real simple copy and some real personality stuff, it goes a long way to have that on paper already prepared so that they can actually go and do the work, understanding a little bit more about who you are, not just some person who wants something done as a task. So that's a really important thing that I found. CRM and automations, I talked about this on some other podcasts, and it's a big part of what we're doing over here with my business and with my agency. Is really, can't emphasize enough the importance of having automations and having all your technology set up before you try to do anything with marketing. That is the name of the game now. Everything from speed to lead, which I talk about in another podcast episode here, but leveraging the technology so your technology is really on point is going to save you so much time, so much money, so much headache. And it's pretty easy to do if you've got the right provider, and there are a lot of providers on these platforms that can do this stuff pretty well. Again, I'm happy to share some of the ones I use. But it's a great place for you to do that in order, again, before you even get into doing paid ads, as you'll see here in terms of my sequence for what you should do. Virtual assistants and customer service. Can't say enough about this. I've got a guy from the Philippines right now who I pay $11 an hour. He's thrilled. He clocks in on Slack with me at 8 o'clock on the button. He's former military. He's got a family. He is thrilled to be working with us full time. Can't say enough about the power of a good virtual assistant when you find them. And so there are opportunities to find both virtual assistants and customer service in a way where you don't have to just outsource your work to impersonal call centers, which I would frankly really strongly advise against, or trying to train up in-house employees that are more expensive and unfortunately can come and go. You could have a really good call center agent, but she's working remotely and she clocks out at 2 o'clock every day or something like that. So don't discount the importance. Virtual assistant stuff is just a really powerful thing, and if you use it correctly through these gig platforms, you can find some really good resources. Happy to share the ones I have with you as well. From there, I'd go into social media. Social media is pretty great because social media content can be AI driven. You don't have to, right? And if anything, I think it's almost better when it's AI driven, because it doesn't, unlike like blogs or content posts, you don't want to be talking like an AI person, but you could write a really good social post. Let's say you're doing 2 or 3 social posts every week. You can write really good copy for that. Just tell it how long you want it to be, what you want to say, make it have that brand or voice that I was just telling you should have. But having social media and getting in that good cadence of building your social profile and your followers and stuff like that with really good content is something that you can do really cost effectively using freelancers and outsourced platforms. So that's a good one too. Local services, obviously humongous if you're using LSA or Google Business Profile Optimization or any things you can do there that are so powerful in local home service business areas. There's some really good resources there as well. I'd really advise you before even website SEO is a part of your Google Business Profile Optimization, but I can assure you a business with a killer SEO website is not going to get as many leads as a business with 500 5-star reviews on Google My Business. So find a balance between those two, but at the end of the game, I would kickstart, and we do this for our business and our clients, where we kickstart your Google Business Profile and have it totally dialed in right out of the gates. And that seems to be very effective for driving direct leads, really high intent leads right out of the gates for sure. And by high intent, just they're coming to you ready to move. They know they're calling you about a roofing job or a cleaning job or something like that. They already know what they want, so that's important. Design video ads, again, same thing here. I've found in my home service business that just shooting on-site, real-time, user-generated selfie videos, things like that, real easy to get video. You just go out in the field with your team, you can get video in 2 seconds. Just keep lots and lots of fresh video to be able to put up in your social profiles and potentially create ads with as well. But really good resources right there for you to use. Either that or like me, you could have a daughter who knows CapCut. I don't know how she knows it, but she can whip up some killer social media videos in no time if I just give her raw footage. But that's becoming really easy and fast to do. And the key to all of these optimizations is ultimately lots and lots of fresh content. Another thing that's pretty doable with freelancers, and something I would recommend you keep a steady pipeline of content flowing in through your business. And then lastly, you can find some people who do paid ads. I'd be really careful with this, but it's tricky to find these, I guess is what I would say. For someone to really run quality paid ad traffic for you, either on Google Ads or Facebook or Instagram, they really needed, by that point, they definitely need all the other stuff I just outlined. That's why I put it as last. They need to really understand your business, because to make those campaigns work, you really need to know the geography. You really need to know the local targeting, the audience, and things like that. They're going to help you optimize those campaigns so they can get profitable for you, and you have more money to spend to generate more leads. I would be very cautious about running paid ads with someone who really doesn't know your business well already, but there are resources out there if you want to do that. And again, I'll just put here, I'm happy to walk you through any part of these steps or why I think they are that way. Just feel free to reach out to me, and happy to share my insights with you to the extent you're interested in using them for sure. Okay. Here's the thing I mentioned earlier about sprints. This idea of just doing 1 week or 2 week, you get stuff back quicker, you get more clarity around what needs to be delivered. And so again, just break a task into clear deliverables. So I used that example earlier of, can you design ad content for me, both image ads and video ads for my social PPC campaigns, let's just say. What I would suggest is you just get back 1 or 2 image ads. Make sure that they're clear, make sure the colors are right and everything's in line with the documents that you sent them, and have them deliver those. Just say, hey, rather than giving me all these ads 2 weeks from now, can you give these to me in this 4 or 5 day sprint? I'm just asking for 1 gig that's 2 banner ads. Let me make sure you're the right guy if you haven't worked with them already, or girl. And then once they nail those and you love them, then go ahead and build out the rest of that suite as a separate quote unquote sprint. That's what I mean by committing to a trial project. So you can just say, hey, design me 1 banner ad, or set up 1 automation in my CRM for me. See how it works, test it, make sure it's all flowing smoothly. They understand, they're not asking too many questions or delaying, or all the other things that can go wrong as part of any one of these gigs. Just that smaller sprint is going to help you get it done faster, better, and identify that the person who's working on it is the right person to be working with it for sure. I mentioned earlier about setting deadlines. Red flag to me, if you can't hit a deadline and communicate up until the point when it's deliverable what I'm expecting to get, I've had people where I've asked them halfway through a gig, hey, everything good? Is there anything I can get you? Or any questions that are popping up as you're working on that project? And then radio silence, and then the day before it's due, hey, what did you mean by this? That's not going to work. It's not going to yield a positive result at the end. And so again, I would really make sure you stick to those. I talked about delegating. Again, let the experts do their work. Let them give crystal clear directions, set deadlines, but then get the hell out of the way and let them go ahead and do what it is that they need to do. You'll know if it's the right person or not for you in terms of what you want as an outcome. Check-ins via Slack and email. I mentioned on other podcasts that we use Slack internally as a team, and just being able to check in and ping them via real-time communication outside of Fiverr. The other thing that sucks about Fiverr is that there's a conversation inbox with the people you probably used it before, but there's a conversation inbox with people you're interviewing. And once a project starts, a whole nother conversation that starts over under that gig. So you don't have one collaborative communication thread like you would in Slack or something like that. So it's a little bit weird where you're bouncing between them. But again, just check in regularly. Hey, how's it going? And then do it ideally within Slack. Little gray area there in terms of service, whether or not you're supposed to be communicating. But once you've hired somebody, I don't think the platforms are as stringent about you're still working that gig on the platform, and you need to give them your email to log into or give them access to your Google Search Console or analytics or something. There's a little bit more information exchange once you've actually hired that person. Pro tip, absolutely use a project management tool. I can't recommend ClickUp enough. It's one that I use. Super simple to just create a task list, put a due date on it, share it with your resource, and then that way they can have little milestones within each of these sprints that can ensure that they know that you need to do dependencies, which you can't do this until this is done, and you can't do this until this is done. So you can make sure that they're clear about what tasks they have to do specific to be able to deliver that whole project. Can't emphasize that enough. It's a great tool. ClickUp, Basecamp, Asana, there's a bunch of them out there, but personally, ClickUp is cheap, easy, and really intuitive to use. Ongoing support. Just a quick thought on what I said earlier about really turning these into ongoing support if you are intent on doing marketing yourself. If you can, develop that relationship into kind of a team partner where maybe you would agree to 10 hours a week. You can control your costs and keep your costs low, but really start to build a team around these. I've done this in different capacities, or at least on different projects, but you can really have people you can rely on. I've got a guy, if I need a financial model build, I call him every time because the work he does is awesome. So he's my impromptu analytics guy without having to have a full-time employee, and we work on a gig-by-gig basis. It's nice when you can offer repeated work, so think of that person and think ahead a little bit about, hey, I might need another X, Y, or Z a month from now. That's always a nice way to keep people engaged. If you get into somebody where you've got a longer-term relationship, I would probably advocate, we have a lot of SOPs or standard operating procedures to make sure that they're clear on what our process is and what we want to deliver. I'll write up, let's say I'm doing a VA project for the following week's content calendar. I would write up an SOP, and you could use ChatGPT or AI or whatever and just write that up as a summary doc, a one-pager, so they're getting more of a overview rather than just the stuff you're chatting directly into the gig profile or the platform itself. So if you start progressing and you want to nurture those relationships, giving people a SOP or a guide is a really good way to keep them engaged and frankly train them and get their sights into your business going much more clearly and quickly. Keep good relationships, common sense, but they'll remember you if you're good. You also have a rating the same way you can rate them. You're rated as a buyer. So if you can be nice to people and stay in touch with them, and it's a great way to have those resources. I think that spreadsheet guy I told you about, I've been working with for years now, and every once in a while I'll hit him up out of 6 months and say, hey man, I got a project for you. He's happy to hear from you, Adam, et cetera, et cetera. Bulk rates or recurring work, obviously just negotiate. You don't want to beat people up, but if you can say, hey, would you mind doing this project at this rate if I guarantee you work over the next eight weeks. I've done scenarios where I've offered a bonus at the end of it. It's a little bit like you could do it as a tip on the platform, but that's also a good thing to do as well. Spread the love. Obviously, by that I just mean share. If you got a great worker, get them some more work, get them some more business. They're going to love you if you bring them good business, good clients, other business owners. Word of mouth is everything, and they appreciate it immensely. Always take care of them the same way they take care of you. And last thing I'll say is that at the end of the day, it's common sense here too, but just treat people with respect. They're human beings. They may be from a different country or speak a different language or maybe have different values from you, but just recognize that you're all working together to create the same outcome. And I found that goes a long way to just be very polite, say thank you, say please, all the good things that mom taught us. So that's my suggestion there. Moving on, I've got this making consideration about if you want to hire freelancers and do your own marketing. Of course, that's always a viable option. There's other pieces you probably need outside of just the freelancers, but also looking at done for you options. So that means either hiring an agency or choosing to work with someone like me and my agency. Just to talk about us real quick, we are an agency that focuses specifically on home service. We're experts in this space. It makes a huge difference having that niche expertise. Like I talked about, we see things and think about things that just your standard marketing agency is not going to see, not having the same exposure and experience within our space. So that's really important. I talked about this, and I usually cover this on other podcasts about how important it is to build your systems first before you start doing anything marketing, media buys, or spending money on Google or designing all kinds of fancy crap. Just get your technology squared away, get your CRM built, get your automations built, get your list put together, and make sure you have reporting so you can see, like I said on an earlier episode, not a bunch of bullshit metrics, but actual key performance indicators, revenue-based metrics that aren't things like CPL or CPC or these other fancy marketing terms. You want to know how many of your leads are turning into money. So having the right dashboards is something that we do for our clients. What I do is I take all of the dashboards and systems and automations that I have, and I just bolt them on for my clients. They just use everything that I've spent the last several years building, which is a real time saver and money saver to say the least. What we do here at our agency for our clients also is what we call quick wins. So our goal is to have a 60-day, very detailed onboarding process. I share it with all of my clients. It's about 150 tasks over 60 days. Unlike other agencies, you have complete visibility in that. But we also, within 30 days, we want to be making money. We want to have quick wins. We want to identify areas we can drive revenue and cash flow for you. We get all your ads, everything up and running for you. But if you want to talk about those a little bit more, I can talk about what those look like. But to me, there's nothing better than starting off an agency relationship where we're already driving you sales and revenue pretty quickly without spending a bunch of back and forth on monthly reports about some fancy marketing metrics. So that's pretty huge too. I mentioned Slack earlier. We do 24/7 communication with all our clients. You should be working, again, I would recommend it for your team, to be honest with you. Even though we're a home service business owner, that's allowed me to communicate different types of communications, different groups of people, search back on old messages. It's a really powerful platform for my business and for other home service businesses, I would imagine. But in our agency, we also have it where I'm on a chat. Any of our clients pings me, I can immediately see that message and respond to it if I need to. If one of our other team members needs to get back to you, they can do it pretty quickly, and you don't have to wait a day or a week or whatever to hear back like you do on Fiverr sometimes. Performance-based fees, we don't need to get into that now, but bottom line, we talked about this, about agencies offering retainers and upfront money and long contracts and all this other stuff. We literally get paid on a rev share. So in other words, if you've got seasonality, you've got ups and downs, or we're doing really well or we're doing not so well, we get paid in accordance with what our performance is and what our results is. I think that's just a better way to do things. So if you want to talk to me about that a little bit more, I can talk to you about how our rev share model is very different and much more ethical and much more in line with not doing the same old shit that agencies do, which can be a real heartbreak. No contracts, cancel anytime, same thing. You don't like working with me or with us or anything like that, you can always just go away. And if anything, I can love to remain a resource for you where you can hit me up anytime, and I'm happy to share insights and things that work for me. Whether or not you become a client, if you want to be a do-it-yourself client, go for it. Hit me up once in a while, ask me what you think. I'm happy to be there for you to support our community. If you want a broader, bigger marketing strategy where everything's done for you, then let's talk about how we could do that for you. And like I said, part of having this agency that feels really good to me is that we see ourselves as an anti-agency. I'm here to undo all the things that I've experienced pain with and the things hopefully that you can avoid in terms of what you want to do for your growth, for your revenue, for building out a marketing strategy that works for your business, okay? Last thing I'll say again, if you want help, let's discuss. Hit me up anywhere, social, here, link, grab a strategy call, I'll put the booking link here if you ever want to book a full conversation with me. We'll do a deep dive into your business and really focus on what challenges you're facing and what opportunities you have. And I can really walk through that. I really use these calls as an opportunity to really understand that specific business. Because even two cleaning businesses aren't necessarily the same. We'll talk about the market. We'll talk about everything. We'll dive into whatever we think is going to help you succeed and grow, kind of get that scale that you're looking for that a lot of home service businesses get locked into. So their business running them and not the other way around. Other opportunities here, there'll be tons of content out on podcasts and social and newsletter. If you want to tap in any of those, I'm obviously here to hopefully provide you with good information. Feel free to follow along with those. And bottom line, let's ignite your business. Let's see what we can do to help you scale, grow your revenue, boost your revenue, and think of the long term here for this business, for your business. Where do you want to be 2 years from now, 5 years from now, beyond? How do we get you to where you want to be and how I can help you to do that? So thanks for listening today. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Aloha.